On the inside of the door, we took a grinding wheel and we knocked down all the high spots. We want to make sure that the mounting bracket sits flush with the inside of the door. We have it all cleaned up, ready to epoxy on. And we did the other side with the flap wheel. So we're now ready to go do some door fitting. We have the brackets screwed to the door frame on the rear of the door and on the front of the door, right next to the front fender. Now what we're going to do is hold the door. I have some marks marked on the door so I know exactly where to place the door on the door frame. Then we can come over and we can take the felt tip marker and mark the sheet metal that we welded on to the front of the door skin, and then we can size that exactly to match the front fender. You might be asking yourself, why am I going to all the trouble to take the existing door frame or door skin that mounts onto the door frame? Why not just buy a new door skin? From VW, the two brackets are $100 a piece, and a new door skin is $500. If I go and contact a salvage yard or eBay, they don't sell just the door skin. They want to sell you the entire door frame. And in most cases, with shipping, it's anywhere from $600 to $700 for a new door frame. And then all I need off of that is just to unbolt the door skin on the outer door frame and replace it. And I've talked to the salvage yards, and of course they don't want to just pull off the door skin and sell the door skin. They want to sell you the entire door frame. This is why I am going to all this trouble to fix the existing door skin on the outer door frame of my VW GTI. I now have the door skin mounted to the door. I'm just holding it with my hand, and as you can see at the very top, we're pretty close. We have about 1/8 of an inch, but as we move down, it then starts to touch the front fender, and down at the very bottom it slightly overlaps. So what I'm going to do now is take my felt tip marker, and I'm going to mark the sections where I have to remove some metal with a flap wheel. And then what we'll do is we'll just keep on doing test fits. Take off a little bit of metal on the outer skin. Keep on doing test fits till we get it just right. And then what we have to do is, while holding the door skin in place, we want to try to open the door to make sure there's no pinching, which is what happened. The previous owner was in an accident, pushed the door out, so I've since adjusted the door to set in much closer to the inside of the car. And I'm hoping after I do some adjustments to the sheet metal, I'll be able to open the door without it creasing or interfering with the front fender. So let's start marking and then do a little flap wheeling. We've done a few trimming and fittings, and we're looking really good along the edge now. I can't really open the door for you with one hand, but I've opened the door and it doesn't pinch at all, and the door tucks in behind the front fender, which was the problem initially. I had to take and adjust the door hinges to set the door back inside. It was out further, and so I set the door in from inside to outside to inside. So it's looking good now. So now what we can do is touch up the edges and put a little body filler in there, and then we can then fit the door against the brackets with some white paint, and then we can pull the door brackets off and bond them to the door skin and then see how we fit. We took the outer panel and when the brackets were attached to the door frame, and we took a felt tip marker and we marked the bracket when the door was in the proper position. Then we came in and cleaned everything up with acetone. We mixed up epoxy just with resin and hardener without any filler, and we used that to coat all the parts. Then the second batch of epoxy, we mixed up some filler to thicken it up, because in case there's any gaps underneath. We wanted to fill in those gaps to get the best holding strength. So we put that on. Let me come over here and show you. On this end, there's 2 alignment screws right here. So we put those bolts into the hole on the door panel, tighten those down, and then at the other end, I took a felt tip marker and marked a little cutout in there, and that is where aligned up. So now we've taken an assorted bunch of clamps and clamped this on. Same thing on the other side. There is a alignment screw right here, and then we took and marked a felt tip marker along the edge, and then we used that as an alignment when we put the bracket down. Then again used a unfilled epoxy to coat both surfaces. Then we brushed on a thickened epoxy, and that will again fill in any gaps in the bracket assembly. And there isn't much, but just in case, I put the epoxy on there in a filled state. We're going to let this cure 24 hours. Then we're going to pop the clamps off. Then I have some other epoxy, a thickened epoxy, and we're going to take and we're going to fill in the edges of this so we'll get a very strong bond on the door panel. So again, along these edges, we're going to put some additional epoxy. We're going to wait till one epoxy cures before we put the other epoxy on. We don't want any interaction between the dissimilar epoxies. So we're going to let this cure overnight, come in and put another coat of the thickened epoxy around the edges to add extra strength. After 24 hours, we've removed the clamps, we flipped the door over, we feather edged the bare metal into the primer and the paint. By no means this is going to be a final paint job. There's a lot of scratches in this door. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put some body filler on. We're going to shoot some filled primer on this, and then that should be it for the time being. Later, when I have some more time, I'm going to wet sand the entire door and reshoot the black and clear coat on top. But again, just for now, we want to get this door mounted. Again, this is not a show car. This is going to be an autocross car. So we just want to get the bare metal filled in with some filled primer. This is after the first coat of body filler, and we have a couple of low spots, so we're going to mix up another batch of body filler and hit the low spots, do some more sanding, and then we'll do a light coat of unfilled primer to see what it looks like. And if there's any low spots or high spots, then we'll sand that out, and then once we get everything set, then we'll come in with a filled primer. We have 2 or 3 coats of body filler, and we're pretty close. I had to do some very small touch-up spots in some low areas. So now we have it wiped down with acetone, blow it off with air, and we have it masked with some paper and tape. Now we're going to shoot some filler primer on top of it. The store was all out of filler primer, so I just had to use some regular primer. Not filled as like I would like it, but again, I'm trying to get the car done for an autocross coming up in another week or so. But eventually I'm going to wet sand and paint the entire door anyway, so this is just to get it on the car so I can use the car, and then later when I get ready to do a little bit nicer of a job, I will repaint the entire door.